Like the mouth of the soil in the earth, breaking through the rocks, growing wild and tall till the buds begin to pop. So pack me in a bowl or roll me in a spliff. While you're breaking me down, you can feel your fingers stiff.
Hey, this is Ryan Herron from Portland, Oregon, and
it's me, Amanda Breeze, and I am also, for the very first time on this podcast, in Portland, Oregon as well.
Right? And we are here to talk about all the fun stuff about one of our favorite plants, cannabis. And yeah, for the very first time, we're here in person together today to talk about weed, to get into some flavors. And Amanda's up and down the West Coast here, so we're going to kind of check in on her travels.
And me and Ryan are sitting side by side. This is so exciting because we always record through the screen, and now we're sitting at the same computer and we're looking at the same screen, and it's really happening.
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of mileage out of Amanda being here, taking a lot of photos and like just random stuff around town. So any picture you see of us together for like the next few months happened during this 1 week where Amanda was able to pop into Portland.
So stoked. And we're in Ryan's house. So nice. It's been so fun to hang out with you in Portland so far.
Yeah, it's always like, oh, when Amanda comes here, it's going to be a whirlwind tour through all of the food and weed and all of the things. And that's what it has been. But I've gotten to maybe 1/10 of the things I'm actually interested in sharing with you. So.
Well, we did get some delicious food truck 2 days in a row, which is very Portland. I mean the food truck food quality is 10 out of 10 across the city. I got in my tacos, which is a must. When you come to Portland, you got to get some street tacos. And then today we did the fish and chips. We've had lots of different cafe hangouts already, which is also very Portland. And today's cafe was actually really delicious because I've been finding the espresso to be a little on the bitter side for my taste. But it was actually really amazing and buttery and chocolatey today. So pretty stoked on that.
Dropping my phone, trying to record this. I even heard Amanda tell the barista, it's like, yeah, I've been drinking a lot of coffee since I've been in Portland. It's like, yeah, that's partly the city's fault. And that's partly because I'm like, hey, meet me at this coffee shop and then we'll head to this one. And then I have just one more I need to get to.
I just think coffee and cannabis go so well together. You get a little tired and then you get a little jazzed and then you get a little anxious and you just keep rolling with your day. Like that's sort of how it works. So it's been a very Portland experience. And it's been really fun. I've been bopping up and down the coast from top to bottom, landed in Seattle. And was so surprised at the lack of dispensaries in the city compared to being in Portland and also compared to being in Toronto. I really thought Seattle was just going to be like an absolute hub of dispensaries, and the downtown really wasn't.
Yeah, I don't really know what that's about. So if you live in Seattle or around there or just from Washington and can tell us why there's no dispensaries basically in downtown Seattle. I mean, I know real estate's super expensive. That's slightly prohibitive, but that doesn't stop a weed store from going up literally anywhere else.
Yeah. And so I ventured out of Seattle. I went into Fremont, which is sort of like a little city on the outskirts, maybe like a burb one kind of ish. And interestingly, there was 6 dispensaries in this tiny little area. And that was actually one of my worst dispensary experiences to date.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm always surprised that those places can hang on at this point at years into legalization where there's nothing on the shelf that looks good. It's not merchandised well, so you couldn't even see if there was. And I don't know what your experience was like, but it's always the very disinterested bud tender that is just if you don't know what you want, then I'm not here to help you.
That is literally how it was. And I was actually, I don't know what I want because I've never fucking been to Washington to buy weed in the legal market. So help me out here. So it was kind of whack. But Portland's been really good to me so far. And also the coast, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Yeah. So Amanda's been kind of up and down the West Coast. And we kind of thought, okay, let's focus on Manzanita today because Amanda's got a history there, was just there. It's a really cool spot. As we focus more directly on actual smoking spots that you can go and sit down and explore yourselves, it's a really great place to kick things off with.
Okay, so I discovered Manzanita over 10 years ago because it's this sleepy little beach town that is coastal to Portland. And there's towns up and down the coast, like Cannon Beach is like a very popular tourist destination. Seaside is another one. I guess you could go as far south as Newport. So there's all these little towns that are very touristy, which is not my jam.
Right. You can go and like get saltwater taffy at 1,000 places on every coast. And I don't know if anyone is doing an interesting job of it. It's the same damn saltwater taffy every place I've ever been to.
I don't like saltwater taffy.
No, me neither.
Like at all.
No. And I'm a guy that loves 1,000 flavors of anything.
Yeah.
Jelly beans all day. I will sit and, oh, this one tastes like grass. Isn't that fun? I get bored of saltwater taffy after I have like 2 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that did sort of taste like peanut butter and jelly.
When it comes to tourist spots, I'm more of a fudge girl. If there's going to be fudge, I'll go for the fudge. But the taffy, I just cannot get back on it. Anyway, it's up and down the coast. So Manzanita is a sleepy little beach town. It used to be a really well-kept secret, but it was actually quite busy when I was there. To be fair, it was Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. And I just know, being here in Oregon, everyone seems to have gone to the coast for Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
It was just, the weather was just perfect enough to get anyone in the state within driving distance to just get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And I remember driving to get coffee, and I went into my spot that day, and I was like, there's no line in here. And she was like, yeah, everybody went to the coast for the weekend. And I was like, oh, so yeah, they were all out there with you.
Me too. And I didn't know it was Memorial Day.
No, it wasn't.
I didn't know. So it was a shocker to get there. But luckily, yeah, Manzanita was still chill as ever. I mean, it's just one little street, top to bottom, and they only have one dispensary. So I was kind of worried because my experience in Washington, I was like, this could go either way. This could either be really great and charming, or it could be another Washington. And I was so pleasantly surprised at what a magical, awesome dispensary it was. So shout out to Oregon Coast Cannabis in Manzanita. They have one of the finest curated selections that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was really amazed by that place. Years ago, I was transitioning jobs, and my buddy Justin, who owned Toro Ma, had just sold the company and was basically like, hey, come out with me to Manzanita. We can chat along the way. I can pick up my last check out there, but I really want you to meet the owner of the dispensary there, Andrew. He's just like a super cool guy, super intelligent, and worth chatting with. And it far exceeded my expectations. Like Amanda said, the shop is super cool and curated. Like, I used to sell weed to the coast of Oregon, the entire state, and I would drive up and down, and I would visit every single dispensary trying to make sales. And they were so value driven that it was almost impossible to get any good weed on the shelves of any of those dispensaries, mostly because, the clientele that really cares about good weed is there for like 1 month or 2 months out of the year. But Andrew there has cultivated a shelf that's like the who's who best of that is willing to take their weed out to the coast in Oregon. It's really just a surprise. And that's the flower, but it's also the oil or the dabs, and also the edibles. And, I didn't dig into the topicals or anything, but I'm sure he just approaches the dispensary buying with that same approach.
Yeah. I really only explored their flower selection, and I really took my time because we don't get the deli style in Toronto. And so I really enjoyed
take advantage of that.
And the store wasn't busy, so it was like perfect timing. And I was getting the bud tender there was so nice and really enthusiastic, wanted us to smell every jar, wanted us to see all the weed. And so they were opening it. A lot of the brands that they were carrying were actually local. So that was the other thing, because that's sort of a trick question when you go to a dispensary, is saying like, what stuff is from the area? What's your local selection? And 90% of the time, there isn't one. So it was actually so nice for them to be like, oh, you want local? Well, here's Family Trees. Here's this other farm that's 20 minutes up the road. And they were really featuring a lot of local flavor, which is what you want when you're traveling and you want to try different types of weed. I don't want to get cookies on the coast. I want to try coastal grown pot. And then on top of that, the jars were stunning, like absolutely gorgeous bud, beautifully trimmed. Like it was just such a stunning selection. The other thing they do there that's really cool is they have their own flavor system, where they break down all of the different flavors and aromatics, which included savory as a category.
Nice. I love seeing that because so few places want to, half the things on the shelf are called cookies or something like that, but they're like, oh, there's not any bakery flavors in wheat. It's like, well, are you sure? Let's look at how many dessert names you even have on the shelf, and they're not named that just for fun. Like there's obviously some connection there.
Yeah. So they did have savory. I was surprised to see that. I asked the bartender, what do you have that is your maximum savory? And he pulled a jar off the shelf that was so freaking food flavored, like as if I just walked up to a restaurant kitchen.
Yes.
It was disgusting. It was actually just disgustingly savory. And I was having my brain was having like a cognitive breakdown because it smelled like lunch, but it was weed and it was so savory. It was just actually a really wild experience. And I think it was a partial cheese, but giving me like I felt like we were in Willy Wonka and the schnozberries really tasted like schnozberries. Like I was scared to eat an everlasting gobstopper because it was legit.
You're like, now I'm getting pot roast, now gravy, now onions.
That's literally what I thought of. I was like, oh no, this is craziness. So their selection, absolutely stunning. And their prices were fantastic.
Oh, really? Okay. That's total bonus. I think that's the thing. If you're going to be the destination spot for the coast, you have to also cater to the community and not make it like can't knock people's head off, because it's not the tourists that are going to keep that place alive.
No, he said it's actually a lot of locals that are coming in. Mm-hmm. And he also said people drive in pretty far up and down the coast because they know when they go there, they're going to get really quality no matter what they buy. And so they have this whole pricing system set up. Their gold ended up being their cheapest, their least expensive.
Sure.
And of course, that's what I picked up. But they had a ton of selection, and I didn't feel like I was getting discount weed.
I think that's like the most important thing, right? I love that. And I think that's like the conversation we have so much where it's about value and not about budget, right?
Yeah.
Because I can go and find like a $1 gram at a dispensaries all over the town. And it's still a terrible value.
Yeah.
Like if I was really looking, I could find a $6 gram, which is incredibly affordable. That, hey, this has some flavor. This has some character. This was grown outdoors from a farm that I like their practices. We're kind of spoiled in that way that we can find things in that price gamut. But you can also get ripped off by buying some cheap weed.
Plus, knowing that this shop is there, it's so conveniently located and that they've done all the legwork for you to find the best flower. Like no matter what I picked off the shelf, it was all some of the best shit I've seen.
Yes.
And so that was really nice to see, because that, a lot of shops will say we curate our menu. Mm-hmm. And you get there and it's like,
I think Hannah and Andrew are the owners there, and they do a really nice job of selecting what goes on. We do see that now where there's intake managers who don't even really know what good weed is, and they're happy to just smoke whatever samples come their way. And so that's kind of what ends up on the shelves. And it doesn't take long for somebody to be like, this isn't very curated or interesting, and I feel lost when I'm looking at the shelf, so I get out of here.
Yeah.
I think a really good tip that dispensaries can take from high-end cocktail bars, they have a menu format. Whether you know it or not, it's going to be, this is a tiki drink. This is a play on the pina colada. This is my play on the margarita. This is my frozen daiquiri drink. Mm. And when you come back in 3 months, all of those slots will be occupied by a different cocktail because they switch things up so often, but it will still be those flavor profiles and that like general mix, because that's just like how you're serving the clientele, and everybody wants to come in and get some tequila thing with some lime in it or whatever, make it easy on the customer by having this like sort of template. And I think the good dispensaries are doing that too, where you're like, oh, I have this kind of sativa leaning thing that's like really terpenoline heavy and smells like bubble gum, And then I have some super heavy pot roasty GMO type savory flavors for guys like me that come in and are like, oh, give me that thing. It smells gross.
Yeah. Or also like, what do you have that's weird?
Yeah.
You know, like how often can you actually then hand someone something that's super weird and be like, oh yeah, that is super fucking weird.
I feel like I challenge a lot of bud tenders because I say, they're like, indica or sativa. And I say, give me something with character. I want something that has a lot of nose. And they're always like, and then I usually get the weird offering because they're like, they don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And so often I get the thing that smells like cheese and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, okay, this doesn't totally do it for me.
Not quite it.
Yeah, you're right. The weird thing on the shelf, I think has to be just as curated. You know, don't just put it up because it's a little off.
Yeah.
Find something that's like interesting.
Absolutely. So they also had a bunch of nutty flavors, which anyone who's listened to the podcast, you know, we've been predicting nutty flavors as being a hit this year. So it's really exciting to see some of the more horchata and some chai flavors in the mix. It wasn't just sweet fruity. They really had such a good selection. And so I was really wowed. And what's nice about this dispensary is that it's right at the top of the town. And the whole town is really just one route.
Yeah. And I mean, Manzanita is like North Oregon, right? It's just like right there.
It's right there. So if you were on a little road trip of the 101, which is arguably one of the most beautiful drives in the world, the 101 is the coastal highway. It runs from top to bottom. So whether you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, or Alaska, or down in the Bay, you can take it up and down. And it's really one of the most scenic drives because it cuts the whole Pacific coast. So it's right there. It's where you would want to be. You can stop into the dispo on your way into town. And I think they were even had some eighths or half quarters for like $7. Oh yeah. And the other thing that they had, which has been so hard to find, is CBD weed.
Oh, sure.
That was actually affordable. So in Washington, again, I'm going to shit on Ruckus in Fremont. They did have 2 CBD strains. And they were $55 for an eighth.
That's a bummer.
No, that's messed up. That's really too much. And they only had 2. They had 100 strains. Only 2 were CBD, and not even CBD exclusive. Just that was it. There was no even 1-to-1, 2-to-1. And they basically said like, well, we don't carry CBD selection because nobody ever buys it. And I've come across this actually quite a bit in New York. Where was I? In Michigan, very few people sold CBD flower in shops. And it's kind of unfortunate because sometimes you do want a little bit of a mix. And so Oregon Coast Cannabis had quite a few CBD dominant options and not at a premium, just like normal, same price as everything else. So I was really stoked to see that. And again, it was local brands, local farms, growers from the region. So you're getting the flavors. So we ended up picking up a couple, like a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, and then just like a sort of high THC, I think it was 22 or 25% THC strain that just smelled so good. We couldn't resist it. We being me and my friend Mike. So shout out to Mike. And so we picked up a few of those things. And then of course we hit the town. Manzanita's cool, man. So if you're a low budget traveler like myself, you can camp on the beach.
Oh, really?
Now,
hey, that's pretty nice.
Here's the thing. 10 years ago when I was there, and I've been there on and off for 10 years. 10 years ago, there was an art music collective that was at the top of the street, like literally a block from where the dispensary is now. It was called The Cabin. And so all of the travelers and punks and hobos and train riders and traveling musicians and traveling artists, a bunch of us knew of this space. And so we would often just pop into Manzanita, and it was sort of like this creative little town by the beach where you could just come and go as you pleased in this cabin that everyone lived, with an art studio and a music studio. A few years ago, the cabin it's gone. The cabin is no more, unfortunately. So a lot of those folks moved out of the city. So a lot of us would stay there or camp on the beach. Now, in recent years, Manzanita is trying to position itself as more of a destination. Okay. And so they've changed the rules a little bit. So you cannot camp on the beach in the city limits, but because it is a tiny town, if you take the road and just drive like a few, 60 feet down that main road, you hit a lamppost and you are officially out of the city, and you can walk back into the city in 5 minutes. Like, it's literally right there.
Nice.
So the city limits is now legally where you can camp on the road if you have a van, or on the beach if you have a tent, and you can have fires. You don't need fire permits. There's tons of driftwood. So it's just a great place to hang out. I'm sure there's great hotels and Airbnbs. I've never personally stayed in one there because I'm like a beach girl. So I went straight to the beach and set up a tent. So that's kind of a nice thing to know, is that you can also pop down there and really just hang out kind of as long as you want.
Yeah. And I mean, when it's such an easy way to take like a day trip from Portland or like a quick weekend trip. I mean, I know the last time I went out there, we drove out there and had lunch and came back.
Yeah, it's like an hour.
Yeah, it was a little bit more than that. So it was a little bit in the car, but if you're down for a road trip, I mean, come on. That's easy. That's totally easy.
Also, if you take, what's the road that goes out there, the highway? Is it the
you're asking the wrong guy.
Okay, so
I'm just following the car in front of me. And
okay, there's not that many options. You'll go on Google Maps, but the road that takes you out to the coast, the halfway point, there's this little sign that says drinking water, and you can just pull off the road, and there's a spigot, and it's straight from the creek, and it is some of the cleanest, tastiest water. So I always make that stop, and if I have bought a bottle of water from a shop, I dump it and I fill it from the spring, because it's just like all the locals do. You'll see a bunch of people drinking the water there. It's just a really nice little stretch your legs, get some fresh air by the spring, fill up your jugs, and then head to the coast. Or alternatively, as you're returning to Portland, fill up your jugs so you can drink some spring water for a couple days. Manzanita is also home to a ton of cute as fuck coffee shops. Really, really cute.
Oh, yes.
Really cute little shops.
Right.
There's the one that I would recommend is an espresso sort of house. It gives me like a nature sanctuary vibes because it's sort of inset and has all these beautiful windows, and they do espresso drinks and coffee. I think it's called Espresso and News. And if you're like a souvenir person, they have really, really cute handmade cups and pottery and stickers and magazines and just like really cute little tchotchkes that you can explore while you're hanging out. But the hottest tip of them all is they do refills for half price.
Hang out.
So if you're like a 2 coffee a day girl like me, that's the spot to go to, because it was already $3 for a coffee, and I got the second one for $1.50. So, and they did not charge extra for oat milk. These are hot tips on the road. They didn't, and that's a big deal in my books.
Yes. No, I totally think that's rad. And the best part is that it's all like mom and pop stuff. So like,
yes,
one of the best things about that is that it's sometimes like a bored 14-year-old. I get it. But often it's like the straight up owner who is in there and like wants to chat with you. And I feel like so many times I go to a place like that and I'm like, okay, I do have to sit down and work and like take advantage, get a refill. And everyone that it comes in, they like know their name immediately. They know their drink. They're like, you want that on your tab? Oh, you want to take care of that today? Like, it's all good. And that's just an excellent vibe, considering 2 hours, 1 hour south down the coast, you're at someplace like Newport, where the only place to get lunch is the brewery, and everyone else is there wearing like the same shorts, and it's like an hour and a half wait. And
also Cannon Beach is there. That's like a very classic. We drove into Cannon Beach to catch the sunset, and it was full. There's like a new brewery there, which looked like a good time, but that's not my jam.
Yeah, I don't even want to hate on those things because that's a blast. Yeah, it really is. But it's a totally different thing when you're like waiting 45 minutes to eat some French fries.
Yes. So I slept on the beach. I woke up. I walked to the News and Espresso. They also, sort of random low budget but fun hot tip, is they actually have public bathrooms in Manzanita that are always open. So like, it's not one of those towns that are like buy something or leave. You can just go use the public bathroom on the boardwalk. I mean, if you travel a lot, it becomes a problem. And it's nice that they were right there, and they're so welcoming to people visiting the community.
I do like how welcoming that is, like for anybody, for people coming through with their kids and need a place
families,
to stay.
Yes.
Or you're like, look, I am a road weary traveler. I need a bathroom, and can I please sleep on the beach? And they're like, yeah, we will not bug you.
It's really so chill there. So then, and then you can walk down the beach. Now, of course, the number one activity when you're on the coast is you rip a joint on the beach, and then you go hunting for rocks and seashells.
Can't beat it.
Literally nothing is better than that.
Yeah. And so I don't remember, Manzanita, are tide pools a thing up there?
So the nice thing about that area is there's also a bay. If you want tide pools, you actually want to go to Short Sands, which is just a little bit of a jaunt away. You'll also see surfers there. And Short Sands is like it is the spot that everyone is going to. So as I was headed out and told people I was going to Mans, people are like, make sure you go to Short Sands. That's where everyone's been going. Okay. And it's like a secret, not secret.
Yeah.
So all the surfers are there, tons of tide pools. Cannon Beach is great for tide pools. If you want to look at like starfish and stuff, that's another great spot. And it's really just 20 minutes up the road. You just zip right up. Like once you're coastal, you're golden. And then one of my fave spots is you head out of town just a little bit on the 101 towards Tillamook. And there's a gas station. And then the street after the gas station, it's called Bayside, and you take Bayside to the very end, and it takes you to basically, I don't know if it's Nehalem Bay or Manzanita Bay, but it's the bay, and so much driftwood washes up there. So if you're like a driftwood person, it is so cool because there's so much driftwood to find and collect. And if you want to make weird little danglies or you just want a little piece of the beach to take home, I love looking for driftwood. There's really old trees there with their stumps and this crazy little ecosystem that's happening. And it's kind of a locals only spot. Like nobody except local people with dogs would go there and walk up and down. So that's like a little spot we would go to and collect driftwood. And then we would do crafts. You get a little wood burner, you get a little, thing. We would do crafts with driftwood. That's
whatever
like,
you're getting into. I mean, hey, why not? I mean, it sounds like fun to me. I'm just thinking like, oh, it sounds great. I'll just bring my coffee down there, my joint. And I was thinking, well, I kind of think that about everywhere. Like, oh yeah, bring a cup of coffee down there and a joint. But yeah, I mean,
and a picnic.
I'm
that's the thing. I brought some food there, and then I don't have a truck, but I call it tailgating anyway. I just pop my trunk and just was sitting there having a nice little burrito picnic and drinking the coffee and then walking up and down. I will say it's much more fun with a dog. So if you can find one, highly recommend.
Yeah, bring your own dog for sure.
Bring your own dog for sure. I did have a dog this time, and it did make it a lot better. So that was nice. My old dog Ro came and hung out. So yeah, we dipped up and down there. So that's a great spot to explore as well if you want to get off the beach and find some shade. Now, I've also camped in the bay.
How's that?
It's very cool.
Okay, I thought you were gonna be like, well, you don't want to go there. The mosquitoes will eat you alive. You're like, no, it's another chill spot.
No, it's another chill spot. And we set up a tarp. We actually lived there for a few days. It's mostly vacation homes, so depends on how hardcore you want to be when you're exploring. I tend to lean towards that kind of thing. Setting up a tarp on the edge of someone's beachfront property. But
if they're not using it, shouldn't you?
Arguably, it was a different time. This time, that is not what I did, but one could if that was your thing. So that was really fun. Okay, what else is in Mans? I made a little list. Another spot. Okay, so this is hands down the best smoking spot on the coast in Manzanita.
Hot tips.
This is so freaking good. So we call it the edge of the world. You will not find this on a map at all. This is a smoking spot exclusive. Okay.
All right.
So you're headed north towards Manzanita on the 101. And right before town, there's this massive pull-off. So there's all these little pull-offs because, of course, you need to scoot over for other cars. If you're the slow guy and you're enjoying the view, you want to let the locals get to where they're going. This is a large pull-off. It has a ton of space for parking. It's clearly cemented, and it has this sort of stone wall that goes around it. So we pulled up there, and there was probably 50 cars. So this is a place that people go.
It's a lot of folks.
Now, you start on the north side of the wall, and you walk along the wall. Just walk along it, and you'll get about a third of the way in, and you just look over the wall, and you're going to see 2 stone steps. Follow the path.
Okay.
Nobody ever does it.
All right.
And you're going to go, we call it the Alice in Wonderland Trail because the plants start very small. And as you keep walking, they get bigger and bigger. So it feels like you're getting smaller and smaller. And they get bigger and bigger, and you feel like you're getting smaller. So it's this little Alice in Wonderland experience. It'll break out. And it's a treaded path.
Sure. Yeah.
But you definitely are like kind of all terrain moving through some bushes and stuff. This time around, it's spring, tons of wild roses. So we were stopping and eating rose petals along the way because they're super edible. And we're walking through. And then you hit a tree. A lot of people stop at the tree. Do not stop at the tree. Keep going down the path. Keep following the path until you literally reach the edge of a cliff. And there's these crazy rock formations. And that is the edge of the world.
Sure.
It is absolutely stunning. 360 view of the coast.
Ooh,
absolutely stunning. Rocks with holes in them that waves are going through. You're super high up above the town. It is... The edge of the world is a really magical place.
Yeah, no doubt. My friend from California always comes up and it's like, damn, man, Oregon looks like Middle Earth. And so anytime I'm, standing at the edge of a waterfall or the coast is like dangling me in front of the ocean, I'm like, oh yeah, this really has a whole scene to it, doesn't it?
I took so many videos. So we're going to post some of those for sure. Our tradition in my friend group is to bring a bottle of wine to the edge of the world and a couple of joints. And we usually share the bottle of wine. And then we whip it off the cliff.
There you go. Next time, bring a note. Put a note in the bottle. Toss that.
We should. And this time I was the one who threw it. I was against the wind. And I am very not into littering. And I'm a dog person, so I'm not into throwing glass. But it became tradition. I know it's really bad.
I love that you were like, okay, some caveats about throwing this.
Well, because I'm a dog person. You don't want broken glass. And I've slipped on broken glass. Yeah. It's bad news. But the tradition started because it was a place that one of our friends often went to like think and explore because it's just really peaceful out there and you're so far away from everything. And then years ago, he passed away. And so after we had the memorial in Manzanita, and had a huge bonfire where we burned literally like full-size trees. And there was like 100 people on the beach. We all decided the next day to go to the edge of the world and drink some wine just to change the scenery. And we decided to put some of his ashes in the bottle and then whipped it off. And so we did that on this trip too. I went with his brother and his brother brought some ashes in the wine. And so we did the whole ceremony about it, but you don't need to go that. It doesn't have to be that sentimental. You can also just go and smoke a joint and drink some wine and whip the bottle and think of us, it's just it's where heaven and earth meet and you can't tell where the ocean ends and the sky begins. And it's the Oregon coast. It's the most beautiful place on earth.
Wow. I don't think that we can beat that as like a smoking spot this week. This is why we are bonking around Portland while you're here, checking out the places that I like and some of the smoking spots, which Amanda is finding out is me being like, oh yeah, this is a restaurant where we're going to smoke in the parking lot. And it's like, oh, okay, I kind of thought it was going to be a little more scenic than an old church, but okay. Or not even an old church, a strip mall church. But hey, we gotta enjoy the local flavors. So it is cool that, we will be talking about the whole time you're here as like a dedicated Portland episode. Mm-hmm. But until then, I mean, come on, how can we beat leaving them with this rad spot?
That is the rad spot. I know quite a few cool spots on the coast. And that is certainly one of my heartfelt favorites. The Bay is also I love Manzanita so much. And it's kind of weird to say because it is such a little speck on the map.
Yeah.
When we think of all the places I've ever been, but it really holds, if you've ever seen those stickers of Oregon, that it's like the Oregon state and then a heart and they're green, right?
Yes.
The first time I went to Manzanita, I went to News and Espresso and I bought that sticker for $5 because that is how I feel about Oregon. It's like a little heart for me. Like, I just love it here so much. So
yeah, well, hey, I'm glad we got you out here again to get into, like I said, some of the local flavors and check it out and explore a little bit. And it gives us an excuse to record in person. Right?
I know. I don't know. I would like you guys to comment on this episode because we traveled a lot of miles. Ryan less than one and me a couple thousand, but here we are.
I'm like, hey, let me round up some weed and normal stuff. And you're like, okay, I'm hitching a ride from Humboldt. I'll be there, ? No, Amanda's actually been really good about traveling. I'm impressed.
It's also very question mark.
This is definitely a skill that you have.
So other spots I've hit on the coast, I was down in Humboldt. So you guys have a Humboldt episode to look forward to. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to talk about the Emerald Triangle. I mean, it's the birthplace of weed. Not really, but anyway, it's
I mean, if you ask some of the people on the mountain, that's what they will tell you.
And I got to sit down with my old boss and one of the growers who's been there for 40 years. I might be aging him. Let's say 20. And well, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing to see how much the town has changed. I got to explore a little bit of the cannabis trail and discover some epic smoking spots for you guys, because I know traveling can be really expensive and money can always be a barrier for people trying to find new places. But when I tell you guys that it is so possible to do it on a budget, even I'm from Toronto, coming as far as California, I didn't come here with $10,000. I came here with a couple $100. And it's so possible to make your way up and down the coast and find these perfect little moments to just enjoy some camping, enjoy the redwoods, enjoy the scenery, and go to these infamous weed destinations like this Manzanita dispensary and, of course, the Emerald Triangle. It's so possible.
And when I came out here, I thought, oh, you know, Portland is really known for coffee and weed and these things. And weed wasn't even that accessible. I mean, it was super easy to get. Like, I just went on Craigslist and asked a bunch of people for weed and they brought it to me. Mm-hmm. But now knowing that you can actually come out here and there's no like Canada tourism yet. Like, it sucks that isn't as plugged in as it should be, but you've heard this podcast. You can rely on me and Amanda as a resource if you really need to. You could just come out here and just go for it and you would have a hell of a time. Like, it wouldn't even be a week before you would be doing some work in somebody's weed field somewhere and being like, okay, I'm out here really doing the thing.
Okay, I'm not even joking. Me and Mike were planting plants in Humboldt. We were there for a day and we were working. Yeah. We were planting. It's the end of planting season right now. My hands were in the dirt. I was planting pot plants in Humboldt County. Again, somehow I was on vacation, but so you are not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs help growing, planting, trimming weed. So, you know, come out here and start asking questions and you will find your people relatively quickly.
Yes. And if you're a total freak, you can go as far south as Mount Shasta and try to get abducted by the Lumerians if that's your thing. I tried. I'm still here.
You're not interested. I think you need to drink more creek water.
Headwater.
Mud water?
No, it's the so it's the headwater of the Sacramento River and it goes through the mountain. So it's where the Sacramento starts and it comes right out of the mountain. And that mountain, Mount Shasta, is where Talos, the underground mountain city, is. And that is where the Lumerians live.
Great. So this is the sewage system from the Talos community and we're just supposed to line up.
They're magical beings. I would drink the water. I did. Still kicking.
No, it does sound amazing. And we actually had lunch with a water sommelier today.
Oh my God, that's true.
Didn't get too into it, but was quite interested in doing like some spring water flights.
Yeah. So if you guys need a list of the best places to drink the water, best places to get abducted by ancient aliens, if you want to know where to smoke a joint, you know where to find us. We're here at the smoking spot. We got the spots for you. And if you're thinking of planning a trip to the West Coast, message us. We'll give you the spots. I'm good at finding cheap flights. I know the best hitchhiking spots, whatever you need. We got you covered.
I actually do love that because like, if you need to come out here and find some smoking spots, like, come on, we got a million of them.
And we have some dispensaries we're going to highlight in our Portland episode.
Yes. We'll get into that. You know, I kind of wanted to just like lean into that a little bit for sort of the end of this episode, because I discovered a new dispensary that my friend has been bugging me about for like a couple of years now. And I always just miss the point because it's called Somewhere. So she's like, oh, have you been to Somewhere? Somewhere had this really great weed, Somewhere, this or the other. And it never connected with me until last week when I was like, I need weed, Google, show me the dispensary. And it was like, go here, Somewhere. And I immediately hit her up. I was like, have you seen this cute shop? They sell like Monsteras and they have like a super good curated weed selection. She was like, this is Cheechable, by the way. Everyone should go follow her.
Yes.
Alicia, she's like, great. She's like, yeah, dude, I've been bugging you about that place since they opened, but you just never remember because it's got a weird name. Ooh, sorry. But I was stoked because very few dispensaries have done that thing where they sell other stuff. You were even saying in Canada, like, that's not allowed.
You just wouldn't. No.
Could you even get like a t-shirt or a rolling tray or something like that?
Okay, so you can get like random swag, but honestly, at this point, if you have one rolling tray, that's enough.
I guess trays. I'm just wondering if like, are they legally allowed to sell some of that stuff, or is it just like?
So you can get little paraphernalia, but honestly, this is the thing about Canada tourism that I've been saying from day one. Having a store that sells exotic plants and flowers and ferns and pothos, even just your basic bitch house plants. Mm-hmm. I have one, they survive, right? And selling weed is so cute. Like, I don't need the dispensary. A dispensary isn't an activity and it's not a destination. And so having a shop that sells, I don't know, fucking tacos or plants, like, to me, that is so charming.
Yeah. And we have a liquor system here in Oregon where the liquor stores are state-owned or state-run in a way that every store has the same product.
Right.
And maybe slightly different, like, volumes and inventory. But like you said, there's no destination about that. And I really don't want weed to turn into that. Sometimes, I just need some edibles and I just stop somewhere. But I really do like going to a place like somewhere, which was in like a bougier part of town.
I just did the same thing you've been doing.
Yeah, you're like, okay, whatever he said, same. See, it's a problem. Okay, they don't need a rebrand. Maybe they just, whatever. Go check them out if you're local. But do something that is, like I said, it's in kind of like a bougier part of town. So I think just a dispensary is not super interesting to the kind of folks who's like, okay, like my rent is $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. But they do really like going down and being like surrounded by plants. The little misters are going and there's like an orchid on the counter.
Yes.
So if you buy a $45 eighth, which is like a normal price for a top tier eighth, you just feel like, oh, okay, I just bought some other consumer product, like I bought a nice bottle of wine.
And this is the thing. If I want to stop for a beer, I'll just pull into a convenience store. Mm-hmm. If I want to stop for a pre-roll, I'm just going to pull into a dispo. But that's those odd times. Wouldn't it be nice to really create these destinations that you want to go check it out? I love like more like a coffee shop where you're like, you make it. I usually get my coffees to go, but I like the energy of like a creative space. I like the energy of a destination. That cute coffee shop we went to, cute coffee.
Oh yeah, Cutie Buys. Yeah,
Cutie Buys, next to Cutie Buys. It was called Coffee Beer.
Yes, owned by the same dude, Philip.
So charming.
Yes, totally cool spot.
Yeah,
and you're there to buy the shit. Like the coffee is good. They have like a crazy small curated beer selection. Every can of beer they have in there has like a crazy fun label. I'm like, somebody really cares about what goes into their like two cases that they sell beverages.
And I would totally go back there again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's super cool. And like, even me, I'm like a remote worker, so I get super bored of working out of the house. When I leave in the morning, I'm kind of like, okay, these are the 6 cool-ish coffee shops I can get to in the next 10 minutes and then get right to work. Mm-hmm. I do the same thing with dispensaries. I'm not just looking for like the closest place. I'm like, okay, what's nearby? That also kind of fits my vibe for what I'm into. Mm-hmm. So the more we lean into that, the better. Like you said, tacos earlier. Fuck yes. Can I please get a dispensary that sells tacos? And I've heard of these pop-ups in like quasi-legal states where it's like, hey, we have fried chicken and then you can get medicated barbecue sauce. I'm not against that.
I'm into it.
Like a little 10 milligram thing of salsa that I can dump on all my tacos and be like, haha, that was hilarious. Yeah. Now I'm stoned. Those tacos were amazing. And I bought some weed. I'm not against it.
I just want to do one last shout out to Oregon Coast Cannabis because you were just saying $40 for a really solid eighth is not unreasonable. When I tell you guys it was $7, and I'm not down for the cheap weed. Like I want the farmers to make the money. I really do, and especially visiting farms again in California and seeing what a challenge it is for these people who have invested their lifetimes producing quality cannabis for consumers, knowing what they're getting for their product is tough, but we all have to accommodate our budgets. And sometimes that does mean looking at those less expensive eighths. And so to see a curated, fantastically stunning collection, and they were a little over on every single bag. They weigh it right in front of you.
You know, I do like that.
They did it right in front of me.
Yeah, for the deli style.
It was right there. And I was like, that's nice. That's just very cute. Appreciate that. So it's summer, y'all. Start planning your trip to the West Coast. It's the perfect weather already.
Yeah, or even just planning any kind of Canada tourism trip before that is really a thing. I mean, here's the thing. There's going to be a hotel that's opening up in Vegas soon that's like off strip. So who knows how far away that is, where there will be smoking rooms.
Okay.
Now, we already know this is like a less desirable place to stay because it's a little further away from the action. So that normally means it could be very cheap to stay there.
Right.
Like you could go and find a pretty decent room in Vegas because of, you know, the incentives and everything for like $35 a night, like super cheap.
Not bad.
And so this weed hotel will likely charge quite a bit more for you to be able to go in there and smoke. So it'll be like a $200 smoking room or something that's like the novelty of being able to smoke in your room. It only lasts so long.
You know what? I gotta be honest. I know the best smoking room. It's the Pacific Ocean, and you just sit on the beach, and you get a free pedicure while you walk through the sand.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, don't wait for someone to be like, come and pay me money to smoke in a hotel room. We've all been smoking in hotel rooms. It's not that exciting.
Yeah.
Come and sit your ass down in the sand and really have that kind of experiential vacation. That's not just like you showed up somewhere and it's cool that they put a joint on your pillow, but also you paid out the ass for.
Yes. Plus, I love we're doing video because I'm sun-kissed. That's the nice thing. I've been in the sun because when you're on the Oregon coast, you want to be outside. It's not Toronto has a smoke warning. You can't even. It's the third worst air in the world today. So I think I picked the right time to go on vacation.
Yeah, this will go up soon. So if you're local or if you've seen the weather lately, like Amanda picked a hell of a time to come out here.
Listen, if you're in Toronto, there's flights to Vancouver, British Columbia right now. I'm not even joking. 2 weeks from now, $40. I'm not even joking.
See, you should just do this as a meetup. You should just be like, hey, everyone, I'm going to be here on this date. Fly out here and hang out with me. Tickets are only.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. I should do that.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe we'll try and throw together like an impromptu smoking spot as my backyard.
Yeah. If you pay for the VIP package, you get to meet Ryan as well.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm incredibly unavailable. Well, that's cool. I think we got into your trip. We talked a little bit about you actually being here in person, what we're digging into. I will say tomorrow, the plan is to dig into as many weed flavors as possible.
Yes.
Through the lens of the Centelligence Cannabis Aroma Wheel.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and where people can find more about it.
So we are still just loving the Centelligence Aroma Wheel. It has been put to the test and it's fantastic. And you can find us at Centelligence on Instagram or centelligenceproject.com.
You got it.
I got it. And of course, you can find us at The Smoking Spot on Instagram. I'm at Emerald Temple Living. It is 100% vacation photos right now, and all of them have weed in them. I just posted such a cute picture of my friend Lauren at King Range Farms watering the garden in the fog. It was so cute. And that next episode will be featuring her because I forced her into an interview because she's so fucking cool.
That's rad. Yeah,
Women in weed. She's cultivating, man. She's doing it up there.
Oh yeah, she's super rad. Amanda has only shared with me like pieces of the interview. I'm already stoked to like listen to more of it. Yeah, stay tuned for a lot more West Coast stuff. And if you are East Coast and you've got a lot of like cool weed destination spots that we need to check out, like leg 2 coming up, give us a shout.
We're into it. It's a vibe.
You can find me at the Loud 100 on Instagram, at the.smokingspot, because you already know where to find us there. Go ahead and give us all the stars, all the love, all the reviews, and stick with us. We'll be here next week with more fun stuff about weed.
Shout out from Portland.
Woo! Home state. Home city, home turf.
Oh, the grass is greener, baby.
Said no matter what kind of pain and anguish life may bring you, Oh, smoke it up, hold it down, and don't ever stop. Well, you can always find a smoking spot. Yeah, you can always find a smoking spot.
Hey, Smoking Spot fans! We're here to tell you about the newest launch from Centelligence Projects.
Over the last year, we've created the Cannabis Aroma Wheel. It's a sensory tool designed to help connoisseurs take their knowledge to the next level. So whether you're a bud tender, dispensary owner, cultivator, or you just love the smell of weed, you can better appreciate the cannabis in front of you.
Get your copy of the most detailed sensory tool built specifically for the cannabis industry and order your Cannabis Aroma Wheel today at centelligenceproject.com.